Yo, yo, yo. What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Brothers in Arms, a new way for men to talk. I am your host, comedian Edgar Rivera, and I am joined today by my brothers, Dr. Dan Ratner, comedian Eric Nieves, and today we have a very, very special guest, comedian Charles Sanchez. What's happening, brothers?
Okay.
Great to
What's up,
see you,
everybody?
and Charles, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
How you been, Dr. Dan?
I've been good. You guys know I was recovering from COVID for about 3 months, and I felt like that. It was not that, but 17 days. Now I'm totally fine. I was playing full court basketball. It just felt great, like I have my life back. Completely amazing.
I like how he said full court. Like before with COVID, he was only doing half court.
Oh no, I was doing full court before, but during COVID I was doing no court.
No court. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, man. I'm glad you're actually over it. It's kind of scary that a lot of people going through it now, but I'm glad that you're good, man. Eric, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm a little upset that I'm getting to the age now. First of all, I know Dan has a real thing to complain about. He got COVID, and I feel horrible. And I'm over here feeling bad that my ear hair is outgrowing the hair on the top of my head now. So like now,
Listen, Eric, that's more serious. That's permanent.
I know. Like now, I gotta put the dimensions of my ears first before I even bother with the top. I'm like, listen, get that, and then like a 2 on the top. So.
COVID doesn't last. Ear hair does.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, but I'm a little upset by that. But no, otherwise than that, I'm good. Just happy to be here with you guys. Happy to have Charles with us today.
Nice, man. Yes, man. And I'll say something quick. I've been good. I can't complain. I've been doing a few shows, so I'm back on stage where I belong, and it helps me better. I feel like this show is my therapy. This show is where we get together every week. We vent out after we finish the show. I feel so good about myself. It holds me just enough till next week. But when I'm on stage, that's actually the best therapy. And I've gotten the chance the past couple of weeks to work a lot, so I'm grateful and thankful for that. Happy to have Charles here, man. Before I introduce Charles into the panel, man, I wanna tell you guys how I met Charles. I met Charles. Like I would say a month ago, right, Charles? Just about a month ago, we did a memorial show for a good comedian friend of ours, also who, passed away, and I met Charles, and it was one of those shows that I had performed. I was hanging out. They was doing a memorial afterwards. Everybody was talking, and I was to the point that I said, "Man, I gotta. Should I leave?" I was like debating. I said, "Should I leave?" And something kept holding me back. And it's crazy, Dr. Dan, because you and I talk about this, and like I have that feeling like something was holding me back. And then out of nowhere, Charles hits the stage as a full-blown character with like a Mexican hat on, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Because I saw everyone in there. I'm like, where the hell did this guy come from? Like real heavy accent. And then he did like a whole bit, and then he broke out of it, and he started talking about mental health, and that was my reason that night. And I told Charles, I was like, man, I'm grateful that I stood because, he's here today because of that, So, Charles, welcome to Brothers in Arms, and I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, man. How you been?
Thank you, brothers. Thank you for having me, man. It's an honor. Edgar and I saw each other that night at a memorial, and basically everybody was kind of going up there and joking, and some were speaking from the heart, and I was the last one to go up, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody had left. It was probably about a room of 200 when Edgar was performing, and then everybody kind of dwindled down to about maybe 20, 22 people, and the majority of them were comics. So when I went up there, I did also the comedian Carlos also Robledo, and I did a character that he loved of mine, and kind of played around with that, and then broke character and said, hey, also, was an addict, and he had like 2 years of clean time, but I think he relapsed with alcohol or. But the thing is that I wanted to mention to the audience and to the comedians that were out there that mental health exists. Mm-hmm. And a large majority of us comedians self-medicate and don't talk about mental health. It's just something, you in the comedy world don't do. A lot of us are suffering, and everyone's afraid to say it. And it just came out, and I had to say it. And I said, we suffer. A lot of us, have a bad show or whatever, and we swear off comedy. I'll never do it again, ever. And then 2 weeks later, we go back on stage and kill it, But during that downtime is the self-medication, it's the self-abuse, and it could come in any forms, in my opinion, in my own personal experience. It could be from drugs and alcohol, it could be womanizing, it could be sex, it could be pornography, it could be eating food. People don't think about that too. That a lot of times, and culturally, everything, like they say, you go to a funeral, there's food. You go to a wedding, there's food. You go to, a lot of times it's that self-medicating or trying to make ourselves feel better that we don't talk about. And that night I talked about it because I wanted to put it out there in the ether, man, in the world of comedy, especially our little circuit, Edgar, that we all know those comics that were all around that night and stuff. But the ones that remained were a lot of the newer comics, right? That haven't really made a name for themselves, or you don't really see them on a lot of posters or a lot of shows. They're out there grinding, the new comics. Yeah. And so for me, I felt happy because a lot of those guys were there at the end, and got to hear that message. Because I think those are the ones that really need to hear that message. The young guys that are coming up that think it's okay to get drunk after the show or during the show, and the weed is gonna make them funnier and stuff like that. But also I'm very aware that everybody has their own journey. And there's times when, in the past where I have done trying to help out comics and stuff, and I stayed away from that. Now they know who I am, they know how I live, so I just kind of wait for them to come to me. And sometimes, like, also, it's too late.
Yeah.
But everyone knows my path, my journey, with recovery. So they know I don't play when it comes to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. It's crazy, Charles, that Dr. Dan and Eric did not know also, and I knew also. I didn't know also as well as you guys did. I know him from the circuit. We did shows together, and it's crazy how I never knew about the substance abuse. You know, and it's crazy how we as comedians could hide something like that. That we party. And the business that we're in. Partying is like part of it, it's crazy how we always lead to that direction, but I didn't know about that. I didn't really know about that. And then speaking to you afterwards, I was like, interesting. This is a cat that I definitely want to have in the podcast, because like you said, self-medicating, that's the term you use, self-medicating, right? Yes, which is the same thing for us as brothers when we what we're talking about talking. Sometimes instead of talking, we'll self-medicate, because you forget about everything. You forget about the stuff that's bothering you deep down inside, all that stuff that's hurting you. You're like, oh, you know what? I'll drink, I'll smoke, I'll do this, I'll do that, and it'll make me forget. Yeah, but that's not really helping you either. It'll make you forget for the second that you're there, or for the minute, or for that night. But deep down inside, it causes more pain, right, Dr. Dan? Would you say?
Oh, I definitely think so. But one thing that I would add is the people who are doing it generally don't think of it as self-medicating at the time. It's correct. I think people what Charles is referring to more is how people will think about it later when they look back and they realize that they're just like thinking they're doing what they're doing, or they're thinking like, yeah, that's what's fun. One of my very best friends is a guitarist, and it's very similar to comedy in this way, in that most people in that community, they think that's what's fun. That's what you're supposed to do. They don't think of it as I'm medicating. They just think that's what you do. Yeah, you're supposed to be crazy, right? And they go out and do that. But I think that what ends up happening over time is they do end up feeling like, man, I keep coming back to the same stuff, the serious person that they are.
Right.
And it's such a funny dichotomy that I think is very clear in comedy. I'm well aware of it, that the funnier you are, the more likely you've had trauma and all kinds of sadness and stuff. I mean, that's what it's all about, right, Charles?
Richard Pryor, man, great example right there. Grew up in a brothel. Mother was a prostitute. Father was the pimp. Grandmother was the madam that ran the house. Mm-hmm. And he used to look through the keyhole and see his mother having sex with Johns. That is very traumatic.
Yeah.
And it manifested with his drug addiction.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And, he was incredibly funny. I mean, humor is recognizing the absurdity of life, and who's going to recognize it more than the people who have been through hell?
That's right.
Well, I would like to say on behalf of comedians, I think it is possible to be funny without setting yourself on fire or being arrested. No, listen, because
we're shooting your wife's fur coat,
or shooting about your wife's fur coat. Like, I don't want to set the bar to the point where like, well, you ain't funny. What have you done? Have you set yourself on fire? You know what I mean? Because as with Richard, like you look at Eddie Murphy, right, who came from a very good background. And you look at Jerry Seinfeld, who also came from a very good background, two brilliant comedians. So I think Richard's art is defined by his tragedy, but I don't think it takes tragedy to be an artist. And I'm just curious what kind of artist he would have been had he not gone through that trauma.
Right.
And I think the genesis of what funny is probably would have existed in him, but he probably would have been a different type of comic. A different type of performer, written different type of things. So, and I also think, and again, I know I'm overstating comedian stuff, but we're talking about comedians a lot because comedians are always making people laugh. People have a hard time wrapping their brains around that comedians are depressed or comedians are down, or that comedians have these feelings after a show that are completely the opposite of the feelings you think because you're just seeing what we're projecting. And I think a lot of people get fooled by what people are projecting, and they're just projecting. They're just showing you what they want to show you. It's not a true picture of what they're going through inside.
Yeah, look at Robin Williams, man. I mean,
I was just thinking,
brilliant actor, man. But in a lot of trauma. And by the way, just from my own experience, my own research that I've done with Jerry Seinfeld and Eddie Murphy, father issues, man. They've had fathers that were really stern and really, fathers that weren't that supportive. If you go back and you read about Jerry Seinfeld, he'll talk about his father and how his mother just kind of thought, yeah, that's great, but become a doctor, But Seinfeld decided to go in the direction of comedy, man. So there was trauma there. It may not have manifested in his drug addiction and shooting fur coats and stuff, but I don't know. Somebody asked me.
Well, I mean, I think the trauma that, and again, there should be no scale for trauma, because trauma should be an individual kind of weight, because it affects everyone differently. But I would say there is somewhat of a difference between a stern father and witnessing your mother having sex with Johns through a keyhole and being physically abused by Johns.
Agreed, but we all internalize.
But we all go through something. Right. Yes, and it shouldn't be dismissed
differently. Right. I can honestly sit here and say I came from great parents. I have a great family, very supportive, loving people. Parents are both educators. I've got a sister who is a Superior Court judge. I've come from a good family, but I had the gene of addiction. And for me, being the last kid, the baby of the family, right? Dr. Dan, it's usually the babies of the family. The oldest are the overachievers, and then the youngest are always the, trying to seek the attention.
It's funny.
And I really do that. Yes, sir.
Charles, when you said that, I was like, how did he know I'm a younger brother? And then I realized you were just talking about the fact that...
you guys been talking?
I was like, what?
Yeah, on the side.
Man, Charles is good.
Charlie been having side conversations with panel members.
Yeah, I even called Greg too.
But I am glad you made that point, Charles, because I think, trauma is about what it meant to the person. I mean, your point is well taken, Eric. There's we call it lowercase t trauma and capital T trauma.
Mm.
You know, Richard Pryor had capital T trauma, the kind of
Yes.
trauma that if that happened to anybody, they'd be traumatized by it. Whereas for some people, they'd have a stern father, but it wouldn't bother them. But there are people who it would have been really, really hard for. And so it's more subjective than that. And I think, what form does it take? I mean, if you think about it in some ways, the fact that Seinfeld or Eddie Murphy, to my knowledge, didn't have nearly as many problems with drugs and alcohol than Richard Pryor did, maybe that's a sign of lowercase t trauma versus capital T trauma. How much do you need to medicate yourself?
But also, like you said, Dr. Dan, how we internalize it.
Mhm.
Every individual is different.
That's right.
I've met people in recovery that said, I was, burned with cigarettes by my mother and father, and they seem like good, stable people who are addicts in recovery.
Right.
Yep. But then I've met people like my story who've had great parents, great upbringing, and then something triggers and they go the other way. So I am a firm believer of everybody internalizes the trauma differently. And it could be a small case T or a capital T. Yeah. Richard Pryor can have with quotations on the side.
I was gonna say he was like all caps. He was like when you put all caps on Instagram, like drama.
Why you yelling? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Drama. Charles, you brought up you mentioned something that I think I don't want to lose the point of that.
Okay.
Some people are just born with the gene. It doesn't matter. There are some people that can stop at one drink at any time.
Right.
And there are people that will never be able to stop at one drink at any time.
Yeah.
And it's, when people dismiss it to something as simple as willpower or, just make a decision, that's when the actual disease gets diminished. And that's when we don't, I think, give enough people enough credit, we don't give enough people credit for trying to to not use, especially because they have that wired in them. If you don't have that wired in you, you're not going to understand it. And if you haven't been around it, I don't think you could understand it either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is something that's been debated for many, many years. And for me, almost 30 years in recovery, it's been debated. Some people say, no, it's not a gene. That doesn't exist. It's the individual, but from experience and studies and all the things that I grew up with, wow, the family's members are overeaters and obese. That's one form of addiction. Look at, oh, wow, so-and-so's an alcoholic. Oh, wow, so-and-so also is, a pill popper or a drug, And so it's debatable, man. But you brought it up, Eric. It's true, man. Some people are, can have one drink or socially drink, right? And go out in the weekend and drink and literally leave a drink there on the table and then walk away from it. As an alcoholic, an addict would go, are you going to drink that? Aren't you going to finish that, man? And we're like, hey, why is he drinking that? What's wrong with him? So it's weird how that there's a big debate, man, whether it's you're born with it, family stuff, or if it's the individual that just picks it up.
I think a lot of trauma has a lot to do with it too, as well. By the way, I'm that dude. I'm that dude that will order a drink, maybe take 2 sips and leave it there. I'm grateful.
That's why I like going out.
That dude.
So I always get extra.
I'm like, yo, look, one drink, and I'm done. If
I always know I'm gonna get at least one extra drink when I go out with Edgar. At least one. He's gonna leave at least one on the table. It's still cold, right, bro? Still cold.
Yeah. But it's funny that crazy that we've been talking about trauma, and I think trauma and all the stuff we go through in life is what pushes us to that point, right? Like what gets us, gets us to go to the drugs, go to the alcohol? Why is it when we have a bad day? Why is it when we messed up instead of saying, you know what, I'm gonna call Eric, I'm gonna call Dr. Dan, be like, yo, this happened today, you know, and vent out. No, we'll choose to go the other direction, go in the other route. What makes us do drugs? Why in this business that we're in as entertainers, the number one go-to?
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy
True.
how, and I mean, and being in comedy, and like Eric said, we talk about comedy, but I know a lot of comedians who have a great freaking night, kill a set, and then after that they'll celebrate by going to get high, let me get drunk.
Yeah, man,
you know,
I can tell you,
it's an addiction to everything. There's an addiction to drugs, to alcohol, to women.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's always something. And you know, when I met you, Charles, I was like, man, it's crazy because you have an interesting story. Almost 30 years clean, which is amazing. It's amazing. I congratulate you for that. I applaud you for that. And at the same time, I was thinking about, you're a comedian.
Yeah.
You're a comedian who's clean, who's very open about AA and drug abuse. So I wonder how all these other comedians, when they see you, how they act. Oh, here comes Charles. Man. Don't drink around Charles.
You brought up something, man, and I'm telling you. Look, when I started out, and I never tell this, man. This is a secret. Mm-hmm. Only a few people know. I started out in 1988 doing stand-up. So when Lopez was coming up, Rodriguez had a name already. I was out there, right?
Oh, wow.
And then later on, that's when the addiction hit. And it got full, and I stopped doing comedy. I didn't come back to comedy until 1997.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And because of self-doubt, self-hate, the self-medicating, then I got recovery and started getting the recovery and learning a better way, right? But I'll tell you the truth, Edgar. All those famous cats out there that you and I both know that I will not name, they being clean and sober or clean, it has really stifled my career in a sense. Because I've had addicts, famous addicts that you and I both know, and we'll talk about on the phone privately, who've said, Charles, I'm gonna take you on the road, man. I want to take you on the road. And when they find out that I'm clean, that I don't mess around, the offer kind of goes off the table. It's happened to me about 8 times in my career.
Wow.
I've had comics literally tell me, I want to take you with me, man, but you don't get down like us. You don't smoke weed, you don't drink, man. And I don't know if I can have that around. I coined a phrase, I'm sorry. I coined a phrase called guilt radar, Dr. Dan.
Oh, yeah.
And the guilt radar, in my opinion, years ago, I started saying, oh, that's guilt radar. Because their own guilt and feelings or whatever is leading them to self-medicate, someone that is clean and sober, you can't have around.
Right, it'll
because the darkness does not like the light. Plain and simple.
Oh, I love that. I love that way you phrased it. And I was even thinking as you said it, I was like, Charles, you know it's because they're afraid of you.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. So talk about not being able to, look, I've been blessed, man. I had my own TV show on Fuse Network that it's airing today. It was still airing every week, 3 times a week. I get no residuals. I signed off. I signed a contract, said, yeah, I don't need it. And so they play it 3 times a week. Sometimes it's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, but my face is still out there on television every day.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the thing is that too was in a sense from people that were high and producing shows and and were not cool with me being clean and sober. It's hard for people. It's hard for people, man.
It is. I can totally relate. There's a lot of ways in which people. It's funny because like the people who want to get better, they flock to me. But the people who don't want to get better, they see me coming and they run screaming. They really do.
Yeah.
There comes Dr. Dan. Don't say nothing around him. He's gonna determine who you really are. Don't say nothing around Dr. Dan.
You.
He'll open up your life, help you really live. Don't go there. No.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? That I never thought about that, Dr. Dan, and now that I see it, I mean, it's the same way as a therapist. It's like comedians. Okay, let's put it in our terms, Eric. It's like, oh, don't say nothing around them. They'll use you as a joke.
I think comedians, I think men, because this is a show about talking how men talk, I think we can't really talk about this without talking about how men get judged on their drinks or their ability to drink culturally. And that cuts across all cultures. Like if you don't throw it down, you ain't a man. And there are studies that show that's why men end up having more drunk driving accidents, because we think we can drink and drive. Women will call the Uber. Okay, a woman will call Stacy and be like, "You need to come get me, girl. I'm fucked up." But Edgar will be like, "I go fucking drive and get in the car." I'm not saying Edgar, like, you would do it, but as a man, so I think that's also an important fact that we have to, as men, we have to make sure we're not inadvertently judging men when they say they're good, they don't need a drink, and take that judgment, because it might be inadvertent, because just as men, that's how we've been judged, especially Latin men. Forget it. Oh my God, if you didn't drink, and they think something's wrong with you in your family, they're like, oh my God, what happened? Somebody died? What happened?
Yeah.
So I think we, as men, we have to check ourselves and make sure we're not judging our fellow brothers when they need to not drink in order to be healthy. We should be respecting that choice instead of making them feel bad for it.
Eric, true story, man. A couple of years ago, before COVID, I was sitting with a very, very famous comedian, and Edgar, you know this cat. We all know him if we're Latino comics, right? In that circuit. He and I sat on the patio at the Ice House in Pasadena, and we talked for 2 hours. It was beautiful. Oh, my mind kept thinking of it. I'm talking to him. Oh my God, right? 2 hours went by, just talking about comedy, life, how we come up with our jokes, everything under the sun, man. Then the waitress comes out to the patio and says, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so, would you like a drink?" "Yeah, let me have 2 beers. Charles, what do you want?" And I said, "I'm good. I'll take water." He said, "Wait a minute, this face. You don't drink?" I go, "No, man, I'm good." "Wait, but so you don't drink?" I said, "No, I'm good. I don't drink." He goes, "Oh, you're one of those guys." And he got up and left. Swear to God.
Oh my God.
Never talk to me again. I mean, guilt radar. I see him at the club or whatever once in a while when he would pop in, and everybody would go, "Oh, it's him," right? And man, I'll tell you, he would always go, "That's it."
We're so afraid of getting judged for what we do.
Why not accept it? Hey, Charles doesn't drink. That's cool. And go on with the conversation. He got up and left. "Oh, you're one of those guys."
Yeah. But it's so interesting because people, all of society is so busy hiding our vulnerabilities. Yes. I mean, if he could actually say what was really on his mind, in all likelihood, it's not the kind of thing people say, but he probably would have said, "Well, you just scared the shit out of me. I don't know what to do."
Right. Wouldn't it be great?
I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if we actually talked to each other that way?
Right.
Well, or at least just ask, like, honestly, look, if someone, I think a lot of people that don't like communicating with people in recovery is that they're afraid they're going to be preached to, and that the whole conversation is going to be, them being looked as having a substance use issue. I think it is. And I think people need to understand it's okay to hang out both with wet and dry at the same time, and not judge each other for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think people in recovery are mad because people can socially drink. I mean, you may get an occasional person that is like, "Oh, you really," like maybe be overbearing with it. And that's an individual personality thing. But I don't think there's a problem with people who are in recovery hanging out, unless hanging around them is going to affect their recovery. If they can do it without it affecting their recovery, then great. But if they know they can't be around it, that's a different story. Yeah. But I think we should be able to, if a person wants to have a drink, they shouldn't be judged by someone in recovery. Right. And someone in recovery shouldn't be judged by someone because they don't drink.
Depending on that addict's, alcoholic's program, how they are in their recovery, there's more of an acceptance, so to speak. I mean, socially, I've seen guys, couple years in recovery that go, "Look at that guy, man. He's put down 5 drinks already," For me, someone like me, I just say in my mind, that's their journey. That's where they're coming from. and that's cool. I'll bless them from afar, right, Edgar? I'll bless them from afar.
We
bless
talked
that
about
brother
this.
right there. In my mind, he's going through it. He's going through some stuff, but I do not judge. But I do think, Eric, that it does go back to sometimes the people that are self-medicating, whatever, will have that kind of, Charles don't drink, or, that guy's in recovery. And so I think they have more of a problem than we do. We depending on your program, accept it more than people realize. I'm in the business where I perform at clubs and all the time get shots and drinks sent up to the stage. And I have to kindly, without starting a riot, go, thank you, and I put it to the side, right? It is this business is surrounded by drugs and alcohol. I said it.
No,
because I've experienced it, man. Out of 25 years, right, going on 25 years in stand-up, I've seen it a lot, and it seems everywhere you go, that follows. But it just depends on the person, whether they accept it or go down that road or not.
I've been thinking a lot. I spoke to Charles the other night. I said, "Yo, Charles, we got a few minutes," and we actually spoke for like an hour.
2 hours
and 40
later.
minutes. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
and then he told me he didn't drink, and I just hung up on him because I was like, I don't need this in my life.
You're one of those guys.
One of those guys.
No, but I was thinking about it, Dr. Dan. I'm gonna ask you a question. I want to see your perspective on this. But like Charles said, your journey is your journey. He has a guilt radar. So as men, when we see other men out there who clearly have a problem, how do you approach it, Dr. Dan? How do we, it seems like Charles is like, okay, you know what? I'll bless him from afar because you don't want to be that annoying person to be like, yo, you should stop, you should take care of yourself. Nobody wants to hear that shit, especially when they high or drunk, So how do you help someone without pushing them away?
That's
when
a
it
great
comes
question.
to this?
I actually have two things to say about it. One, I was thinking before, and then I'll get back to your question. The first thing that I was thinking is, and this started when Eric was talking about, the pressure to drink. It's really interesting because I think a lot of times people see drinking as some kind of a group activity. But the reality is, in many ways, almost nothing is a group activity. We're all on our own journeys. We are all on our own journeys. I see. I hit it on the nose.
Yeah, you did.
And this is something that I've been so impressed by AA about this, much more than by therapy actually. When I went to my best friend's AA meeting after 1 year.
Nice.
I went to that. I went to some others with him just to soak it up and see what it was like, and I was very impressed by the fact that AA. They don't tell people what to do. They kind of trust the people to find their way on their own journey. And I think, you have to. And even with that kind of thing, I think it's best if you actually trust them. It's okay if you want to talk to them about something, but like, if you go up to somebody and say, hey, I really think you shouldn't, be doing that, or you need help with this or whatever. If they're not at that point in their journey, not only are they going to ignore you, they're going to avoid you like the plague. It's much better if you give them the space to just be who they are. Even with the best friend I'm talking about, for a long time, he was drinking and using drugs, and it really wasn't a part of our relationship so much. He would never do it around me.
Right.
He didn't talk about it much. But he said something really interesting to me after he got sober, and he was like, you know what? You helped me so much because I could tell you were never going to judge me. So I think if you can do one thing to help everybody, and not just with drugs and alcohol, but with anything, don't judge them.
Yeah.
Listen.
Earlier in my career, if I may, Edgar, I did that. First 5-10 years of my sobriety, I would talk to comics that I saw that were really going down that road of serious addiction, and never got a good response, Dr. Dan. Never.
Yep.
Never got, thank you. I needed that.
I just
Charles.
needed somebody to tell me what I already know.
Right, exactly. So I stopped. 15 years ago, I stopped doing that because, like I said earlier, everybody's got their own journey, man. But I did realize something. I am the example. So sometimes that resonates, right? People see that, and sometimes comics will come up to you and go, man, I need help. What do I do? Just recently, Edgar, when we were at the memorial, one of the up and coming comics came up to me and said, I need help. Look, I know he's a cocaine addict, and it shows. Just, it's like comics. Like I said, remember Edgar the other night when we were talking on the phone, and I said, when you see a new comic, you go, oh, his premise, and his transitions aren't really that, but he's learning, man. He's grinding, right? And then there's seasoned comics that we go, oh, hell yeah, he's got it. Same thing with addiction. An addict knows another addict, right? Or we could tell the symptoms. When he came up to me and said that, I was really, really cautious because I was afraid, here we go. 15 years ago when I started helping people or whatever, it's going to happen again and I'm never going to hear from this guy or whatever. So I just listened. And I told him, when you're ready, call me and I'll put you in the right direction, right? Yeah. I haven't heard from him since. But he's suffering, man, and it's sad. It's really sad for someone that has found a better way to live, to see someone suffering so much. But I think the thing is, I've heard this many times in both programs, AA and NA. Some of us have to die to get the message across, and that's sad, but it's the truth. And my point of saying that is, some are going to have to go through it. We're going to hear about comics with fentanyl and comics that have passed away and comics that committed suicide because they were going through something, right? And we have to say that was their own journey, and that's what happens sometimes as addicts. I don't know. I just everybody has their own journey, man. And I learned years ago to step back.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has to make their own choice. I actually, in many ways, I go through the same thing because I help people with chronic pain, and I see chronic pain all the time. People talk to me about it all the time, and I could jump in there and constantly say, like, oh, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you. But what you got to do is trust. You got to let them come to you.
Right.
And because they have to make that decision for themselves. I mean, it's good to make yourself available in some way, but what I really one of the things I really liked about what you said, Charles, is that guy who came to you, and I know he hasn't come back yet, but maybe he will sometime, hopefully. He came to you because of who you are, not because of what you said.
Right.
So I think that's something that we can also keep in mind, is that people will come to you because of who you are.
Yeah. The example.
That's right.
Lead by example, Yeah. I don't preach anymore to the addicts that's suffering, to the comic that's suffering with whatever substance, right? Or addiction, or I'm the example. Yeah. But it has, in some sense, stifled my career.
Nice. I mean,
I'm okay with that. At 55 years old, I'm okay with it. Yeah. Long time I wasn't. Yeah. And I remember saying the phrase, God, 5 years ago, right? And at that time had 20 years clean. Saying, well, maybe I could get down. And I told my sponsor, I said, hey, maybe I can just smoke weed and not do, all the other stuff. He said, are you serious? And I said, no, I'm just kidding. but the fact that even popped in my head after 25 years, man, or 20 years at that time.
That's such an important point, and I just want to highlight it. Like,
5 years.
You have to realize that, I mean, like I said when you said that, it was worth it. I don't know if you heard me say that, but it definitely was worth it. In my mind, no question at all. It's harder when it's your journey and you had to make certain sacrifices and you didn't get certain things. But I think as a society, we really need to help people see it actually is worth it.
Right.
You have one life with yourself. And the question is, are you going to treat yourself well or not?
Mm.
We're always measuring ourselves based on whether we succeeded in other people's eyes or did we achieve this particular goal.
Yeah.
In the end, it's about, did you live a good life with you?
Mm. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing it.
Dan be dropping nuggets.
Yeah,
Boom.
yeah, it's
Mic
badass, man.
I
This
think
this nugget was brought to you by Dr. Dan.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, you should
know-
go into psychology, man. You really
You really
good.
should. You should really follow that.
That would be a good.
Yeah.
You know. The irony is that people that are using see sobriety as this awful struggle, and people with sobriety see people using as an awful struggle.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they see both sides. Like, oh my God, that's so horrible. They have to stay dry. They can't drink. And meanwhile, the people that are the people that are sober are like, oh my God, they have to hide all their feelings. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not true, man. You know, sometimes
Oh.
I let it out what I'm
Yeah.
truly feeling. You know, but it it's so true, man. That's so funny because
Yo, I think
there's times, you know, when you are trying to, you know, walk the walk. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And then there's times that, you know, you have a mind relapse and you go, maybe if I smoke weed with these guys, I'll be on that tour.
It's
Yeah.
easy to get sucked back into the groupthink.
Yes.
And I think it's incredibly important for getting better from whatever you're going to get better from,
Yeah.
or directing your life,
Mhm.
to remember you got to make your own decisions for you. You can't let what's outside dictate things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you
That's
do,
just me. And that's
it's-
how I've lived my life for 29 years, man. You
Yeah,
know,
I was
took me
thinking,
time,
listening
but
to both of you
I'm
guys.
getting there.
I listened to the question I asked you, Dr. Dan, listening to Charles talk and how do you help someone. I think what I've learned from this podcast, what I've learned from everything we've done here, is to listen. You know, before when someone came to me with something, I felt like I had to listen and help. And it was never the case. And then your problems now become my problems because now I'm stressing on how to help you solve your issues and your problems. But during this whole podcast, I've learned how to listen to people. So as I was listening to Charles talk, I'm like, maybe one good way to go about it is, instead of going up to someone and say, yo, you have a problem, maybe open up to that person. Maybe build that friendship where you feel you built a good friendship where you feel comfortable enough to share something with this person, and eventually, hopefully, they'll feel good enough to count on you, because it's all about talking. It's all about talking. You know, the other day, Charles told me step 5. Step 5 really stuck with me, Charles, because step 5 is exactly why we do this podcast now. And I want you to say it. What's step 5, Charles?
You remember the other day you wrote it down? And
I wrote it down, but I want to hear you say it. I'm going to hear you say it. Come on, Charles, 30 years. You should know this shit already. No, I'm messing with you.
Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And what that
that's the
means
problem.
to me is that it is not for you to admit some kind of guilt. Well, I did this. I cheated on my wife. I did this drug or whatever. No. Or to tell another person, it's for you to hear it yourself. There's something very powerful when you speak it out loud and you hear it. It does something.
And
That's what that's always meant to me. Step 5.
And that's the whole point of learning how to listen to one another.
Right.
That's the point of this. The point is when your boy comes up to you and tells you something, listen. Just listen to him. You know, we here right now because, you know, we need to listen to one another. We need to help one another, bro. You know, we need to vent out. We need to connect with our emotions. You know, I mean, in the beginning, before this podcast, I was that ignorant person. No, I don't want to talk to nobody. If you try to tell me what to do, I'm like, I was that dude.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm like, you know what? Now I learn how to listen to people. Now I'm gonna try to build that relationship where, you know, they may feel comfortable, come to me for help. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason we are all here. And I wanna switch it off. I don't mean to cut it off real quick because I want to do a walk in the walk, Charles. So a walk in the walk for Brothers in Arms is a segment where we open the floor to you, and I want you to share something with us that that's been bothering you, that has bothered you, something you have inside that you want to share, anything that you want to share with us, and and hopefully let the listeners and viewers know that it's okay to talk. Here's Charles, who just met Dr. Dan and I mean, we know each other, but you just met Dr. Dan and Eric.
Yeah.
And I guess it shows the example that you could have a best friend in your life, but you could also talk to someone who seems cool, who seems like they will listen to you without even having to know them. Sometimes the people who don't know you give you the best advice.
True.
The people who do know you, they will judge you. They will tell you what to do because that's what they want to think.
Well, they don't have no stake in the game, man.
You. Right.
You got to. That's why therapy is, to me, is sometimes friends are good, but therapy is better because sometimes you need somebody with no stake in the game, man.
That's right. So, with that being said, I think we should go into this walking the walk with the very funny and talented and good brother Charles Sanchez. Take it over, brother.
Right. Yeah, man. It's do I have to cry? Because I will. You never know. Sometimes
it's allowed but not required.
We welcome it. We don't require it.
Oh, damn. Okay.
But we welcome it.
And we won't judge it either way. We won't judge it either way.
Because the thing is, after almost 25 years in stand-up comedy, you get to a point where you do feel old. And that's the hardest part for me right now in comedy. I realize that there's references and stuff that I make on stage, while I'm improvising or whatever. And I realized that about a month ago, I was on stage and I said something. I think I referenced Happy Days, right? In the 30s and over got it. But the 20s were like, what? Is that a song? And so I think that has come up more often now, man, is my age in comedy. There's something about stand-up comedy, man, that I love. And I don't think I could do anything else. I teach now and I love it. I love teaching. But I do feel like, is my time up? I have been lately coming into the realization, of my age, and then and not in a sense making it, right? The sitcom and the TV and the movies and all that, and so that's been really heavy on my heart lately. Someone invited me to do a comedy show, I think next month, and I'm really thinking about canceling, man. Because I know it's going to be a lot of millennials. It's going to be a lot of Gen Zers. And although the host, the booker, loves me, and loves my comedy, I'm not in that. I'm scared, Edgar. I'm scared because, look, as comics, we know what works on stage, right, Ed? We know what works. Yep. The jokes that work, the ones that will hit, the ones that will get the big laughs. We know that the new shit that we're trying out, we kind of put those to the side. But when we can hit it with all those jokes that hit, we go, oh man, that works. And even though I know that instinctively as a comic that those jokes will work, I still am scared, man. I'm afraid. I'm afraid now that I'm getting old. I gravitate more towards shows that have an older audience. And so the fear of that, it's like the old boxer, man. What am I gonna do now? Sometimes they go and they commentate on shows if they're lucky, right? And then some just fade away into history. Remember so-and-so? He was a great boxer, man. And that's the part that gets me, man, that I've been thinking about lately, is my age and how it's really starting to affect my brain, the way I'm thinking about comedy, And I really want to, I don't want to think like that. I stopped dyeing my hair years ago because I kind of wanted to show like the old statesman, the old comics. Yeah, man, I earned this shit, working with talent in Harlem. That'll give that to you, you know. But people would go, "Hey man, your hair is getting grayer, man," whatever, you know, because I really stopped at a point going, I'm not gonna dye my hair no more. I'm tired of dyeing my hair. This is who I am, you know. But appearance is everything, man. We get on stage and we're a little gordo, a little chunky, and we go, "Oh shit, I gotta lose weight and make it look good, or put some Spanx on, or whatever." You know, I know comics like that, man. But it's a reality, man, that I'm facing lately. That how long can I do this game, right? But there's hope. The shows with the older audiences, and then also the challenge of talking to a younger audience. And when you see the younger audience, right, the 20s, laughing at your jokes, you go, "Oh shit, I still got it." Making them laugh. You know, it is a challenge, but I'm getting to the point now as an older comedian, how much can I take? You know, because you know, there's so many shows with, you know, 30 plus over, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the kids now doing it, you know, there's millennial shows and shit, you know. And so I don't know, that is my thing. Wow. Right now in life. And I don't talk about that. I've never spoken that out loud till now.
Wow.
But that's how much I trust you, Edgar, and Eric and Dr. Dan. That
we're honored.
It is the honesty, the reality, and the truth of what I'm feeling today. There you go.
For somebody to be so strong as you are, with your background being clean so long and the positive, this walking the walk came out of left for you. I didn't expect that. I didn't know what you were going to talk about. I thought you were going to go into the substance abuse and then, but to hear you say, "I'm scared," hit me. Hit me. Because we're all going to get to that age. But I don't want to talk so much. I want to let Dr. Dan talk to you on that and see, you know, I mean, give you his point of view, because I'm just a comic, you know.
Comics have more knowledge than you think, man. I'm telling you.
Just a comic.
We're the truth-tellers on stage. Remember that.
And therapists would be a lot better if they were funnier.
Yeah. Hey-oh!
So
Dr.
listen.
Dan, he'll be all week. Try the veal.
I was thinking of a couple things. One of the reasons that you're walking the walk, which I don't even know if you guys heard this, but he actually said the phrase "walking the walk" earlier.
Yeah, he did. Oh. He did. I was like, "Oh man, we should have started it right there." We should have
segued right then.
That was the segue.
But I let it go to another moment. That's fine. But I still brought it back. But what I was thinking about is that one of the reasons you're walking the walk is so powerful is because it's happening right now. There's so many times where people want to talk about what they suffered then, because it's less vulnerable than now. Now is always the most vulnerable. In a way, I'm not surprised, because you're a recovered addict. You're an AA guy. You know this. Right. Being in the moment is such a big part of that actual vulnerability.
True.
And you went straight for it. So I appreciate that, and I'm honored by it.
Thank you.
But then I was thinking, and you can tell me if I'm being delusional, guys. I had a certain idea. I was like, this is really interesting, because I hear what you're saying. I understand why you're saying it. And then I was thinking, I found myself imagining, it's interesting. You don't see like 90-year-old comedians, but you could. Yeah. Like if a 90-year-old comedian got out there and was funny as hell, it would be even funnier. Like, because you never see it. And what I was thinking is, like, you know, what makes you funny is always evolving, because it's an interaction between you and life.
Yeah.
So I don't think you ever have to stop if you don't want to. I think that what you're experiencing, I would call doubt. Like,
yes.
Doubt comes in from all angles about everything. And it convinces us, I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can do that. You know, like I write songs and sing, and I'm going to make an album. But there's a part of me that's like, can I do that? I don't know. Is that okay? And I always push through the doubt. So I'm hearing doubt in you here. I totally understand why. You're making sense. But the good news is, if you observe that as just doubt, just something to push through, you can go ahead and crush it and go live the life you want to live for as long as you want.
Right on. I like that. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. It does surface, Dr. Dan, every once in a great while, especially lately. These probably the last 10 years. When I hit my 40s, I was like, man.
How old are you, Charles?
I'm 55, and I'm proud to say it.
Scare the shit out of me, Charles.
Yeah, I'm 55.
Now I'm here thinking, damn, when I get to 55.
55, Charles?
Oh my God, I'm gonna get scared.
Word.
Man, you were talking like you were like 75
70.
the way you were talking like oh sometimes
That's what Doubt does
sometimes
to
my
you,
hip
man.
don't work and my left eye don't open but I just want to tell jokes in front of these kids. You know what I mean? I'm like, what the hell?
Fucking millennials.
What the hell?
I know, man. I know. But like we talked about earlier, trauma, whatever, and addiction, whatever, manifests differently for different people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because look, I know cats out there. Look at Lopez. He's in his 60s. You know, Rodney Dangerfield was in his 80s when he died.
George Burns,
almost 100.
Almost 100. He trying to do. Betty White wanted to make it to her 100th birthday to tell some jokes.
Yeah.
Do you think Charles? Because one thing I think a lot of men, the one thing they refuse more is getting older, or the truth of getting older is like a thing that men will ignore. That's why Just for Men exists. Do you think because you are in recovery and being in the moment, does that make you appreciate or understand the aging process better than someone that's just kind of going blindly into it?
Yeah, I do. Look, our program is a program of honesty and being honest with yourself and with others about your recovery, right? And I think that's how I've lived for almost 30 years. The honesty part, trying to be as honest as possible. But truth be told, man, this really has been surfacing for the last couple of years. You know, I love what I do, man. I enjoy it. Laughter is the best medicine, plain and simple. True. And man, to make people laugh is the best drug high I've ever felt in my entire life. And I think I will be one of those dudes in his 70s going, my hip don't work, my shoulder. Look at these bitches out here, you know.
As long as the mic works.
Yeah. Is this thing on?
And the mouth.
That's a brush, Grandpa. That's a brush. Yeah.
Well, listen, I do appreciate you sharing, because I think that's like Dan said, it's happening now, and I think it's a topic that men in general don't talk about, the fear of getting older enough. Yeah, and we try to avoid it by acting younger than we are. I think isn't that the whole genesis of a midlife crisis? Yeah, it's just not wanting to face it.
That is what's happening. But I haven't bought my Porsche yet, you know, or my Corvette. But I don't know, man. Look, I've got real quirks, man, that I trip out on. You know, I do see older gentlemen that you know do the hair and all that kind of stuff, and that's them. That's their journey. And I'm almost acceptance. I'm accepting the aging. I see it as wisdom. But getting back to everything else, that's just how I feel right now. And also, I feel like I'm getting older, and comedy is, what is the shelf life for comedy? I mean, if you can look at George Burns, you go, oh, it's 100. Right. But everybody's different, man. And that's how I'm feeling right now, and that's what I wanted to share.
Well, it's great that you shared, and I was thinking, like, it's interesting because on the one hand, aging can feel like wisdom, and it can feel good, and that's totally true, and I hear that. But what you're saying is there's this compartmentalized side on the comedy side where you haven't yet resolved that in your mind. You haven't figured out how you're going to get that settled for yourself. That's when doubt comes in. So I just wanted you to be aware of that doubt so that you could say, that's not necessarily true at all. In fact, it probably isn't. That's just doubt talking.
Yeah. It really is. It really is. I you know where I think it manifested, Dr. Dan, was about a year ago. I did a show, and there was a lot of millennials in the audience. And I saw a woman on her cell phone. And there's a famous picture, right? Of it says, what the audience thinks a comedian sees. And the audience is standing up and they're clapping, right? And they're going, woo! And you see, and they're all, it's a flash. So you see everybody going, and says, but what the comedian sees. And then there's one guy going, 500 people going, you, woohoo, right on. The one guy is what we see.
That's what you see. That's right.
So I think that's where it kind of started to manifest, like, oh shit. And then, self, just kind of going through the list of things and stuff. Well, maybe that's it, Charles. Maybe it's the age. But I'm young compared to these motherfuckers.
If I could tell you anything, Charles, man, and I want Eric to share his part on this as well. As a comedian, I can't see myself letting comedy go.
Yeah,
dude, if I could do comedy into the day I die, I would. If I could come back and do comedy on my own funeral, I would do that.
This thing on.
But I will tell you this. I did a show one time, and it's crazy how you brought that up, because we look at the audience. You don't look at the people who are having a good time. You always look at the people who are not having a good time.
Right.
Those are the people you want to make laugh the most. So I did a show one time, and there was this one lady in the front, not laughing at all, nothing. Everyone's having a good time except this one lady. And every punchline, I'm looking at her and nothing. And I'm like, what the hell is going on with this lady? So my body's having a good time. I'm in autopilot. I don't know how to tell people this when I'm on stage,
true.
how you in autopilot, you're doing your jokes, but in your head, you're thinking about what I'm going to do next, what I'm going to do this. This lady ruined that whole experience for me. Everybody thought I was great, but in my mind, I'm like, why this lady is not laughing? And afterwards, she came up to me, and she was like, you were hilarious. And I was like,
yeah,
but you did not laugh. And she goes, I was laughing inside. So with that being said, Charles, fucking don't quit comedy. You know?
I'm not.
Because those little millennials are probably laughing inside.
You know what, man? The comic in me said, man, if he says that bitch was deaf, I was gonna start rolling. Like she said, well, hilarious.
No, she said she was laughing inside.
Funny.
Can you imagine? Nah, man, but
that's awesome. I mean, no, man, I have no intention of quitting. But I do am facing the reality, man, that I am getting older. That's all. Mm-hmm. And it could be anything, it could be the little, oh shit, another one, another gray hair, or whatever. But who knows? Maybe you'll see me next time. You're like, Edgar, you're like, Charles? Now I have all black hair.
Just for men. Looking like Eric Nieves.
Fuck it, Edgar. I said, fuck it, man. And I went through it, man. Look at me now. I'm doing the millennial shows.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you bringing some honesty to the table, though. That's what's up.
Thank you, brother. My pleasure. You're welcome.
It's not every day that you get to hear a grown man say, I'm scared.
Yeah.
One of the many things we don't do as men, we don't really talk. We hold it in because we're afraid of the aftermath, the backlash that comes with it. But I want to thank you, brother. I definitely want to thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for talking about addiction, for talking about everything that you talked about. Thank you for sharing that with us. Because now I know, and now I have you in my circle.
Yes.
If you ever need anything, if you ever have any doubt, bro, if I tell you anything, if you ever have anything that's bothering you like that when it comes to comedy, dude, feel free to pick up that phone call.
I will.
And I will definitely freaking guide you and work with you.
That was hilarious. Edgar was like, listen, I'm here for you no matter what. And Charles was like, I'll call Dr. Dan.
He's like, hey, I don't need you. I need the doctor.
Yo, son, listen, here's what you need to do.
Where's Dan's number? Give me Dan's number.
Yeah. I'm gonna hang out with you and Eric, man, and saying son and yo. Lot. Yo, son, word.
Nah. But you know what though? I want you to I'm gonna catch up with you. I'm gonna check up on you in a couple of days. And I want you to honestly tell me how that made you feel. Because I feel like when we do a walk in the walk, after you do it, you get in your own head and you think about it more and more and more. But eventually you feel better. And that's the whole message to this podcast.
Yeah.
If we could talk, if we could learn how to let it out.
That's
You
true.
know, you don't need nobody to listen. Just let it out and speak it out by yourself. Sometimes you just tell yourself whatever it is, but just let it out, and eventually it will make you feel better. We need to be better men. We need to connect with our emotions. We need to be stronger. We need to support each other. There's a lot of messed up shit happening in this world right now. But I feel like if we all stick together and we all become better men, we could be better as a human race, you know? Yeah, as a whole, you know? So thank you, brother. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for walking that walk.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you
Thanks, Charles.
for sharing your story with us, man. I appreciate you, Charles. I really do, man. You just became a part of my circle, dude. I know that when I need something, I could call you and I could count on you. And thank you for walking the walk with us today, brother.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. With that being said, Dr. Dan, you want to say anything else to Charles as far as him not doing comedy no more?
Hey, no, I never said that. I just said this.
I think we've already come in for the landing on this, that he knows he's doing comedy for another 20 years. But I'll tell you this: if doubt creeps in, I'm a guy who crushes doubt. That's what my podcast is called. And actually, I want to have you on that podcast, Charles. I think it would be great to have a discussion about that. You know, because we have a lot in common, a lot to talk about honesty and being in the moment. I really loved that your walking the walk was right in this moment. I'm impressed by it. I think it's great.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Eric. Anything, Eric?
No, I'm just so happy that someone that's 108 years old like Charles can still have the ability to talk.
Thank you, son. You know, Eric, it is Eric, isn't it?
It was.
No, my old man is always an old black man. Yeah. Thank you, Eric. They call you Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. Can I say something to all four of you? Because Greg ain't here, but he's here.
He's here.
Hey, man, part of walking the walk sometimes is as simple as this. This is my T-shirt. The reason I wore it, my company is called Comedy for Life, because that's what it is, and that's how I teach. You know, I teach that comedy for life.
That's also what you got to do.
Yeah, that's true. Because comedy has gotten me through so much in my life. And without comedy, I don't think I would have survived those early years of trying to be clean, you know? It's really, really changed me. So I do a lot of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous comedy shows for people that are suffering with addiction, because I've seen how it changed my life. So I give back that way. So, and by the way,
thank you.
Are you, Eric, are you in California?
No, I'm in New York.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. So Edgar, you in California? No.
Yes.
Edgar, man, I got a couple Narcotics Anonymous shows I would love to put you on.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Big money, $25.
Yeah. Nice. Wow, man.
Per show.
50 more than what I made the other night.
But you split that among all the
you got to split that amongst the lineup and the host
comics
and the DJ.
Each, something like that.
Man, right. I want to thank all the viewers and listeners, man, for supporting us, for tuning in, for sharing the videos. Please comment down below, man. If you feel like you're struggling with anything, man, always, man, just comment down below. If you have a question for us, just comment. Either one, Dr. Dan, myself. Even if you have a question for Charles, man, we'll tag him along as well. Thank you for listening. All I ask is, man, if you're a brother listening to us right now, and if something we said today touched you, man, just share this video with someone else, man. So hopefully we could spread the word more and we could be better men, because that's all we're here to do at the end of the day. So Dr. Dan, take us out.
All right. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.
Yes.
Brothers in Arms. Primordial.
106 years old.
106 years old, Charles.
Yes. Walking the walk.
I thought Charles was going blind in his left eye the way he was talking. You know.
Yeah, there was a long time.